Hello everybody, welcome back to Kanga TV, home of North Melbourne fans, and today we have learnt the fate of the final four players without a contract for season 2026. Will Phillips, Darcy, Tucker and Geordie Payne have been informed that they have played their last games for North Melbourne. All three of them will not be offered a contract in season 2026. The final member of that group, Harvey, has been awarded a one-year contract extension and he will remain in the blue and white for at least another year. I want to start off this video by saying that this is definitely the worst time of the year, and no matter what these guys were able to do on the field for North Melbourne when they walk through the doors at Arden Street for the very first time, they're North Melbourne people until the day they leave. And all three of these guys, Darcy, Geordie and Will Phillips in particular, fantastic guys. I personally have had the pleasure of getting to know all of them in different capacities over the past few seasons they've been at North, and Will in particular, I've got so many fond memories. He's such a warm and humble and genuine down-to-earth person who just has so much time for everyone, for all the fans and supporters. So I just want to wish all three of them the very, very best in their endeavours beyond Arden Street. I do see a world where all three of them could potentially be offered a lifeline elsewhere, but whatever lies ahead for these three guys, I wish them all the very best. While the news is always difficult to digest, none of it surprised me. Both the three players left without a contract and then Harvey's one-year extension. And I might start with Harvey actually. I think my views on Cooper are maybe in the minority compared to the rest of the North Melbourne faithful, and that's totally fine. I'm more than happy to wear that. I felt like Cooper did enough to earn himself a one-year contract extension, but I'm not sitting here probably gloating as much or as impressed with Harvey as I think a lot of other people are. He definitely had a few flash in the pan moments for me across season 2025. He had some big games where he was able to get on the end of a fair few goals, but I feel like there's probably a little bit of work still on my end that I need to see from him, particularly defensively. I know that he did play a portion of game time in defence in the VFL before he was called up to AFL level, and I understand that his role isn't to be the pressure small forward, it's to be the opportunistic small forward and to make the most of any opportunity he gets in front of goal. But I think for a team like North Melbourne, we really need players to be running both ways, and I just didn't see that enough from Cooper throughout the season. We've got someone like Paul Curtis who works so hard defensively to win his own ball and can match it with output on the scoreboard. For me, Harvey probably just needs to do a little bit more work in that defensive game. If he was able to combine with Jacob Constanti, the defensive elements of Jacob Constanti and the offensive elements of Harvey, and I've said this before on the channel this year, if they were one player, just dream player. So I do think Cooper did enough, and I'm really happy that we're giving him another season. I didn't think that there would be a risk of him being picked up by another club. I didn't think that we would miss the opportunity to re-sign him. So I think this has kind of worked out the way I thought it would. I'm comfortable and I'm happy with a one-year extension. I personally think that he did enough to earn it, but I don't think for me he did enough to deserve more than a year. More than happy to see how he goes in 2026, potentially start him and just see how he goes, and hopefully he can continue to build on the momentum that he did have at parts of season 2025, and hopefully we can see more of that natural ability and brilliance more often in season 2026, and we can start to bring out the very best of Harvey and make him a regular fixture of this senior side. Moving on to the other three guys, and Will Phillips has been a massive point of discussion on the channel in season 2025 and in North Melbourne circles for years before then. He was sort of under the microscope from the moment that he stepped through the doors of Arden Street. Will Phillips, taken with pick 3 in the 2020 draft. That already was a controversial pick at the time, with Logan McDonald, the key forward from WA, taken with pick 4. One after him at Sydney. At the time, we definitely needed a key forward. We had just traded Ben Brown over to Melbourne. Nick Larkey definitely needed a little bit of assistance up forward, and North decided to go down the route of Will Phillips. He boasted some great leadership qualities. He boasted some great inside ability in the midfield, and he did show some signs in 2021, but at the end of 2021 he fell ill with glandular fever, and unfortunately hasn't been the same since. It kept him sidelined for the entirety of the 2022 season. Who actually knows how long after the initial diagnosis he was still struggling with symptoms? It kind of became apparent late last year that if he was to get one more season at North Melbourne, it kind of would be it. And 2025 was that for Will Phil, and he was in and out of the side where injuries allowed him the opportunity to come into the side. He wasn't able to hold a spot in the senior side off his own bat. He was sort of like the 25th, 26th man, and he was brought into the midfield when an opportunity presented itself, usually through injury. I think George Wardlaw's injury and concussion issues over the past couple of seasons have gifted Will Phil quite a few games at senior level, and he did have some big moments as a tagger. I thought that was maybe the answer for him, reinventing himself. He played some big games and big roles in the middle of last season, especially on Nick Dacos. We all remember how well he played in that game against Collingwood and really minimising Dacos' influence for 3/4 of that game, but then he was subbed off at 3/4 time, questions around his tank and how far he'd be able to go. So for Will Phil, 50 games over 5 years at North Melbourne, like I said, missed an entire season in season 2022, just wasn't able to bounce back after that. Wouldn't surprise me if we saw him play on at another club, but where he might fit, I'm not too sure, and I think we'll just have to wait and see if there is a spot for him on a list elsewhere. I really like Will, like I said, as a person, and I would love for him to have the opportunity to continue his AFL career if it meant at another football club. Geordie Payne, probably a little bit unlucky, taken with the first pick of the mid-season draft last season. He had to wait until round 22 this year against the Giants to make his debut. He was pretty good on debut. I think he had about 4 or 5 tackles and he kicked a goal as well. Played the final 3 games of season 2025. It wasn't as impressive in those final 2 games. That, alongside Zach Banch being taken this year in the mid-season draft and bursting onto the scene and really making the most of his opportunity. He was awarded with a 1-year contract extension at the end of this season, and that probably spelt the end for Geordie Payne. I think Geordie Payne is a small forward that we need. We need that high-pressure small forward who knows how to find the goals as well. But unfortunately, it just took a little bit too long for him to come on, to make a case for himself, to actually break into the senior side, although I think a lot of us would argue that he should have made his debut a little bit sooner than he did this season. I don't know what the delay was. There probably was 3 or 4 week window earlier where he might have been able to make his debut, and it kind of just seemed like by the point that he did make his debut, it was already sort of over for him and his papers were already stamped, which is really, really unfortunate, because I think had he had an opportunity earlier this season, it could have told a different story. Darcy Tucker, the final player not offered a contract for season 2026, came across to North Melbourne from Fremantle with Griffin Logue at the end of season 2022. Of course, we were awarded a couple of extra picks in that compensation package, which we were forced to trade up, and we did to Fremantle. I really like Darcy Tucker. I thought last season in particular, he had a pretty good year. He played 48 games for North Melbourne across 3 seasons, kicked 9 goals. A very solid staple in our lineup in season 2024. I always described Darcy Tucker as the workhorse kind of guy. He was never going to be able to do the flashy stuff, but he was there. He was an honest, hardworking player. And I felt like his role was really to help the superstars around him and just contribute to the wider passage of play. For Darcy Tucker, he had a 0-touch game when he was playing a tagging role on Connor Rosie back in round 7 this year against Port Adelaide. He was dropped after that, and unfortunately we didn't see him again. A season-ending back injury moved him onto the long-term injury list not long after that, and you kind of think that probably spelt the end for him, unfortunately. I feel like for Darcy Tucker, his possession let him down more often than not, and in a workhorse role like the one that he had, you probably need to have possession that is cleaner more often than not. So I think, like I said at the top of the video, very sad, and it's really upsetting this time of year. All of these guys have really contributed well on and off the field during their time at North Melbourne, but none of these have surprised me at all. And I just want to say again, I wish all of these guys the very best in whatever lies ahead. So where do we go to from here? We have 3 list spots available as we look ahead to the national draft. How many of those spots do we fill from the draft? How many of those spots do we fill via the delisted free agency? There's definitely a few players who have have been delisted that may be able to come into Arden Street and play a role. There are also a few rookie spots available, I believe, so we may look to shuffle a few players around and see who we might be able to bring in. Do we make any further changes ahead of the national draft is the one question I have. If I had to have a guess as to what I think we'll do, I think those 3 senior list spots are filled with selections at the national draft, and then potentially if we are going to bring in any delisted free agents, they come in as rookies. But hey, plenty of things can happen between now and then. We will just have to hold tight and wait to see if any news does filter through closer to the time. How are you guys feeling about the final list changes that were announced today? Feel free to leave all of your thoughts in the comments below. As always, we can continue the conversation on socials as well. Kanga TV show across Instagram, Facebook, X, and on email. For those of you who are keeping up with the channel on socials, there is a giveaway live on Instagram at the moment to celebrate 1 year of Kanga TV. I'll be sure to leave the link in the description for that one as well. Some amazing prizes up to grab. Just a little way for me to say thank you for all of the support throughout the first year of the channel. We'll be back when the next bit of news breaks, no doubt. Who knows when or what that will be, but I know we're all going to be doing it together. It's also time to start looking ahead to the draft in the next couple weeks, which I'll be sure to bring on some knowledgeable guests to help me assess what may lie ahead for North Melbourne in the 2025 draft. I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Go Roos.